Alright. Wait. What? How is my sound? Can everyone hear me, see me, etc.? So I'm just gonna work on this piece. So this is I'm doing a version of the Canada Food Guide, except I'm replacing, so the new Canada Food Guide is really neat. It's in the shape of a plate, and then it's got some proteins in one of the quadrants, some greens in one of them, and half of them is fruits and half of the plate is fruits and vegetables. So it's a really cool image, and really striking and easy to understand. I've been looking for a sort of infographic type image that's primarily illustration image based, that I can use for sending to publishers, art directors, etc., like as a postcard. And this was suggested by a local nutritionist, food scientist, as something that would be really cool to illustrate. And I agreed. So this is just a personal project that I'm going to be using. And I didn't feel like setting up a whole different thing on my desk, because I'm working from home due to lockdown. Yeah, because I'm working from home due to lockdown, everything is on one desk. So today you're gonna see me actually working on work rather than doing something specifically for the live stream, which is probably a good thing. So that's my plan for today. Wow, broccoli, indeed. Yeah, so I'm just gonna queue up, you know what, I think I'm just gonna read your comments up on this screen here, because I'll be referring to you know what, no, I will queue it up here. So the Canada Food Guide, you can look up photos. Usually it's photo based, and I assume that the government commissioned a photo. It has a number of different foods on it, but I wanted to change it up somewhat to represent some of my favorite Canadian grown produce. So for example, they didn't have peaches, and I really, really love peaches, so I decided to add peaches. Also, there wasn't sweet corn. I added sweet corn. That one's been kind of a challenge because it is yellow, and painting shadows in yellow is a little challenging. So that's a work in progress still. I'm not gonna focus on that too much today. Today, I think I'm going to be working in this area here. I'm using, this is my Roman Schmal Aquarius palette. So this is, I got a bunch of paints sent to me by Roman Schmal Aquarius, plus I bought a few myself, but most of these were just sent to me. So I've got a selection of paints that's a little bit different from what I would usually pick on my own, but it's also got some unique paints, like this golden yellow, which is PY 181, I believe, which is a fairly uncommon pigment, but it's really, really pretty. I've been using it for these peaches as well as to yellow out some of the areas of the carrots. I'm painting a tortoise in Jared Cullum's style. That's really cool. I look forward to seeing your tortoise. And Stephen, I'm glad that I am more interesting than golf. Very satisfying to hear. Okay. A little bit of blue here. Oh, that's a little too much. Let's go with maybe this. Just golf, tournament golf, woohoo! I know very little about golf. Did you manage to get something out of the lichen photos? The lichen photos are great. I haven't worked on them yet, but I am really looking forward to that. There we go. That's what I needed a little bit more of in here. Actually, I'm gonna turn on some extra lights here. I feel like I'm missing all sorts of context here. Probably want a little bit more in the way of the broccoli, so I'm gonna put another one here. And another piece here. Yeah, I'm trying to make it really, really colorful. So the other thing is, like, especially, I mean, I haven't really started, but with the proteins, I think they had a piece of salmon, but it was like really, really cooked in the original photos. So I will keep salmon, even though I'm vegetarian and don't eat salmon. But I will be making it much pinker. And yeah, and I added these peaches. There's going to be a couple more slices there. Trying to keep it quite bright and colorful. Are you working from a photo reference? Sort of. If you look up the Canada Food Guide, you can see what the original Canada Food Guide is, and I am copying a lot of it. And then I'm looking up individual references for different fruits and vegetables and food products that I'm adding or changing. There was these dribs and drabs of animal-based foods, a little bowl of yogurt too, I think. Yes, so it is mostly plant-based, which is really cool when it comes to food guide, because past versions had a lot of like really, really animal protein focused, and this really made it clear that that stuff is optional. You need to get your protein somewhere, but they show a number of different plant-based protein options and then a few meat and dairy. And there's just a few, and it's just in that corner, which I think is really, really cool. And I do want to keep it that way where, you know, they are represented as that's an option, but it's not overwhelming. Like, it's not you have to eat meat. That plate is busy. It is absolutely very busy. But I think that that's really great as a like from the illustration perspective. So what I'm going to be using this for, I mean, I don't know, I might have a buyer for the original. No guarantees on that. But even if the original isn't sold, I'm planning on using this again to send out to art directors for magazines and publishers and like packaging products and stuff. And so it's important with those postcards to really give a really clear idea of what you do and sort of your range. And so I think that something that's very bright and colorful and like easy to understand. So I really like that this is, you know, a one glance, like, oh, you know what you're looking at, especially if you're in Canada, you're used to seeing this food guide. But also just like, no matter what you're looking at, you're gonna see, it's pretty obvious what this represents. But it's also a great way to show my range as an illustrator. So I'm really, hi Henri, how are you? Diversity makes sense health-wise as well as more artistic interest. Yes, exactly. So I am really, like, this was, actually, she's my husband's second cousin, she's a food scientist, nutritionist working in the area. So she contacted me about some illustrations, and then she just suggested this as, you know, something that I might consider painting. Like, it would be nice if somebody did this. And people have suggestions all the time, you know, oh, you should illustrate the whole alphabet, or you should paint tarot cards, or etc. And a lot of that is, you know, there's just not enough hours in the day. Like, even if it's a good idea, you know, yep, I'll take that under advisement, and it never happens. But this one was actually really, it fit into a need that I had. Like, I've been wanting to send out these postcards, but I had a problem with looking at my existing pieces and feeling like none of them really showed in one piece the range of things that I wanted them to show. Like, I wanted a piece that was bright and colorful and like all fully saturated, that had a narrative element where it tells you something, where it's informative, just from the illustration standpoint. But I didn't want that to depend too heavily on words, because again, I want the focus to be on, this is me and this is my art, and I don't want to clutter it up with a bunch of words, and I wanted it to be bright and colorful. And so this is just kind of the perfect project for that I had been looking for. So I'm really excited to be doing it. So this is a personal project. It's not, you know, it's not a commission, which means that I can show you what I'm doing, which isn't always the case with commissions. Sometimes it is. Sometimes clients will be happy to have their finished work or their works in progress shown, but not always. But in this case, the client is me. So hi, Paulo. I see some food. Yes, yes. So as I was explaining to the others in the chat, this is my current project, personal project. So this isn't a commission, really. I might have a buyer for it, but it is, I wanted to do an infographic type image to send out as postcards to editors, to art directors, because I'd like to do more editorial commissions. I'd like to do more like infographic stuff for magazines and publications and stuff. But I need to show my range and contact those clients. Liberal propaganda. Hell yeah. I will paint your propaganda. Just pay me. Hi, Joey. So there's one of my new broccolis. I'm just letting that dry now. And I'm gonna do the other one. Got very, basically, it's just dirty water. It's just the slightly greenish dirty water. And then right around the brightest points, I'm gonna run some of this yellow. And then this body color green here. And so then I'll add more details later, but this makes a bit of a definition before I even start with my details. So next week, I'm starting a gouache class online because I feel like I really need some help with working in more opaque media. Just sort of, like I know my way around watercolor, but then when it comes to anything else, isn't there an 80s song about dirty water? I don't know, before my time. Probably though. That was the thing back then. Like in terms of social issues. I'm assuming that that's the context for a song about dirty water. Well, I mean, I was born in the 80s, but I was just, would have been very young. That part came alive very quickly. Yeah, so I try to get my basic stuff in with very wet and wet, like simple washes, and then come in and add some detail later and tighten it up. And I feel like then that maintains a little bit of the vibrancy, a little bit of the variation that you get, a little bit of the interest, even when you have then something very detailed. I don't know, I could be kidding myself a little bit, but no English voice in my head, maybe Depeche Mode or Contemporary. Potentially. Okay, I need to get myself a warm drink, and this needs to dry before I mess it up, so I will be right back. What are we doing here? Stendel's Dirty Water. Canadian tune, Eyes of a Stranger, guys. I'm gonna have to go look that up later. And I'm still waiting for my water to boil. I've got meds though. I've got a headache brewing. It's not too bad right now, but might get better. So there's a quota on our radio in Canada that I think it's 30% has to be Canadian in order for them to something. It's like they get some amount of funding if they follow certain directives, which means that we do tend to have a lot of Canadian stuff playing on Canadian radio. And it does really help those artists often break out into the more mainstream North American market. So you get a lot of Canadian artists playing on American radio too. Bryan Adams had an album deemed not Canadian. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the regulations there are. I'm just aware that there are. Regulations. All right, I'm going to be right back. did I miss something? Lee wandered off briefly to grab myself a drink. I'm here now though. Hi. Yeah, I just grabbed myself, let's be very careful where I hold this. I grabbed myself a matcha. It's one of these instant matcha latte things, and yes, that is a chopstick that I'm using as a stir stick. Confused millennial noises. Actually, speaking of chopsticks as stir sticks, this is one of my friends posted a little while back on Facebook a thing about, you know that you're from Toronto when, you know that the only correct way to flip your pierogies or pirogue is to use chopsticks, which kind of cracked me up because that is absolutely true. That is the only correct way to flip pierogies. That, yes, also I'm from Toronto. There's one of these cultural mashup things. So I have chopsticks at home that I use for all sorts of purposes besides eating with. Right now, one of them is a stir stick for my drink. All right, I'm back. I think my broccolis are dry here, so I can get some more detail on there. Sorry, what would be a cool name? Oh, murky paint water. I think my younger sibling works at one of these like paint night type places, or used to. Obviously, that's been less of a thing with COVID. But I think they were mentioning that they have a drink called the dirty paint water. I was so excited about like the ingredients when they listed them, but apparently they literally just take all these colorful liquors and then just shake them until they're brown, which is just, I don't know, seems sort of disappointing. Like it feels like you could do something more interesting with that concept. With manganese blue and cadmium yellow. My favorite. Absolutely no lip pointing of brushes. Having local beer. Ooh, I'm local to you. Which local beer are you having? Not that I can really drink beer anymore, but you know, whatever. Oh, I got some lovely samples from Core. That's exciting. Samples of what, pray tell? Make her a Laker. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, so when you said local beer, nothing against Laker. I immediately jumped to like, ooh, is one of the local breweries doing something interesting? Shows you where my mind is at, because I don't even drink beer. I used to. It doesn't get along with me anymore. So I stopped. They sent me a dot card with 6 dots and 3 tubes of 5 milliliters, which I wasn't really expecting, as the people I emailed only mentioned the dot card. Ooh. What did you email them about? I'm so curious. How do I go about getting free paint? On with my internet connection. Form on their site to ask for samples, which I did. It was just that. Oh, sent you tubes. That's nice of them. Magenta, ultramarine, and not so yellow. Oh, okay, so like a. I almost jumped on buying a bunch of Mission Gold paints on Tuesday, last day of Jackson's sale. I broke my no-buy. Well, I broke my no-buy so many times, it's a little ridiculous. I also talked about my interest in Aquazalt, and they put me in contact with their lab person. Yes. So that is one thing that's really wonderful about Golden, is they are incredibly responsive with like actual answers. Where like pretty much any company you contact, you can get an answer, but a lot of the time it's just like if you contact Daniel Smith, you just get their form answers. They'll recite their marketing back at you like, well, that's helpful, thank you. I'm also thinking about doing some shenanigans with Daniel Smith Amethyst. Ooh, yes. I want to, please do some shenanigans with Daniel Smith Amethyst. Hi, Joy. You are up very early, my goodness. Good morning, Joy. What a lovely Saturday morning it is. So sleepy. Yeah, I would also really like to see Amethyst shenanigans. That's really interesting. I just need to get a hold of some samples of their violets pigments to check and compare. Yes. Could you describe what shenanigans you're doing? Are you like, is there some spectral analysis going on? Ooh. Yeah, I wonder with a lot of the Primatex whether they're not disclosing something else that they're putting in there. Like, I would believe that the Amethyst is a mix of one or two violet pigments and amethyst dust. But I'm just not, I cannot conceive of how they would get a crystalline structure transparent. Like, if you grind up amethyst, you'll get something that's nearly white. Like, it's, how is it painting out so dark? It doesn't make any sense. I will try to compare the visible spectra of violet colors and do GCMS on the paints. Yes. Years ago, the handprint guy was suspicious of the Permatech. There's a lot of reasons to be suspicious of the Permatech. I think that the generous answer is that they are starting out with some real minerals, but that they are adding something else in there for at least some of them. But they just shut down and spew their marketing copy if you ask them pointy questions about it. So there's like, everyone who's looked at it carefully can point out a few of the Primatex that just don't quite make sense. But what are you gonna do? Yeah, they had one of their reps at a conference that I attended earlier this year, and they were talking about the Primatex, and they have this special process for grinding down their paints, where instead of, like, it's breaking instead of crushing, or crushing instead of breaking or something, for milling down their paints, or milling down their minerals. And you know, I asked them specifically actually about the amethyst, because the amethyst is the big telltale to me, is that's not how crystals work. And they had, I think they had an amethyst sample, and I said, well, you know, I put in a question and it just got ignored. They really don't, they clearly just really don't want to talk about it. So It should be easy to figure out from the cost of equivalent amount of amethyst. I mean, I don't feel like that's necessarily the problem, because with a lot of these things, it would be cheaper to get them in powder, right? Like if they are using secondary offcuts from people buy gems that are cut, well, all the extra cuttings, like all the extra powder, doesn't have much of a market. So I could believe that they've got a line on dust from various other production. Is the amethyst functioning as filler? The amethyst is what I think gives it the sparkle. That is my theory about the amethyst. My theory about amethyst is that they do in fact have amethyst in the paint, but that what it's doing is adding that light shimmer, because your amethyst crystals are going to be like a nearly translucent, very, very barely there crystal. And then what is that dark purpley black ground? There's some questions about like the green apatite, jadeite, whole bunch of them, about like this is not what this pigment looks like when it's ground up. So it does have sparkle. It does. Do I have my amethyst painting? It is a dark, dark purple. It's a very subtle shimmer. Anyway, I mean, a lot of the permatex colors are really lovely, and I think that there's, you know, I still use a lot of them, even at the end of the day. I mean, they do perform well in light fastness testing for the most part. So, yeah. The Jordan Apatite Blue, is that the real thing? I don't know. That one's just sort of gummy. I don't like how it spreads in water. I have no opinions on how real it is. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, they're nice paints regardless. It's just sort of frustrating when brands say things that, you know, are verifiably not true. What do you take me for? I'm not an idiot. I remember the green apatite. It was real nice, but as soon as you mixed it, that red-green look would go away. Red? I don't know about red, but yes, green apatite is really only useful for one-shot painting. Like, you can even mix it, but it really doesn't behave well if you try to glaze things over it and mush it around and move it. Like, it you know, put it down wet, let it separate, and then leave it alone. And that's the use of green apatite. So it's not super useful for like what I'm doing right now. I'm not trying to shame them. I'm just curious and kind of suspicious after seeing the microscope pictures. Yes, I agree. I agree. Yeah. I thought you gave me green apatite. I thought I traded you green apatite for the Amethyst? Stephen? I thought I gave you Amethyst. Like, I painted one thing with Amethyst, but then I can't have it handle sparkles in my paint. One-shot paints is something somebody should have told me about before I bought Telfelt, Potter's Pink, and Davy's Gray in watercolor. So I use Potter's Pink in glazes. You do have to be delicate with it, but I don't have too much of an issue with mixing and layering that. One-shot paints. Okay, so one-shot paints is just sort of a term I just made up. Or paints that really behave best. They're like a lot of paints that have like really strong appetite, genuine. They're really down once and not mess with it, glaze it, not. I should try that fancy new PV55 as a yellow neutralizer, maybe better than the Amethyst. PV55 is too reddish to properly neutralize most yellows, unless you have really like a green. PV55 is lovely though. Okay, next. Let's see, let's put another slice of, oh, nope. Yeah, I find for like if you're gonna underpaint for like shadows in a yellow, sometimes going a little reddish even, like something more of a perylene or quinacridone or something violet, tends to work all right. Moxie has returned to her comfy chair. It's up to you all to entertain me now. Hey, no, 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 no. Hi, Cyan. How are you? Yes, indeed. How is Ruka? Since you had to cuddle with Cat and you're allergic, you had to cuddle with Cat? Did somebody force you to cuddle a cat, Cyan? Did the cat force you to cuddle a cat? Because that's what my cat does to me. It's all very upsetting. I'm also lightly allergic to my own cat, which is annoying because he's so soft. I just have to cuddle him. Hi, Lana. How are you? Yeah, I came from sauna and Kat just walked onto my lap, rolled over and forced cuddle. Okay, yes. No, I've decided let's not do cat allergies. I agree. A neuron definitely agrees when he like decides to cuddle my face. It is a hostage situation. What are you supposed to do when there's a cat on top of you? You just, you don't have a choice. I'm actually kind of concerned because Neuron sometimes likes to come into these streams. And usually when I have a bigger painting, I work on it on an angle. But I haven't figured out a way to make that work with streaming, so I'm working on this flat. Whoops. Does anyone have big plans for this weekend? Manganese violets are amazing. This weekend, recover from early mornings. You had a lot of early mornings recently. This weekend, I'm taking a gamble on this weird, unseasonably warm weather being just an early spring this year, and I'm planting out a whole bunch of stuff, which, you know, with my luck, will probably just die in a couple weeks when it gets cold again. But all our forecasts are it's supposed to be warm for like the next 2 weeks. And by that point, it'll be getting to the point where it's actually like supposed to be safe to plant things. So I've got peas outside that I started in like mid-March, which is like way too early to start peas, but where I am, because yeah, Canada. All right, let's get this all in here and maybe get maybe hold back some plants of each variety just in case and because you have many plants. Well, so specifically, like I'm not gonna plant out my summer garden. So my peppers, well, I have one pepper outside, just because it was a discard that I tossed So when I transplanted my peppers, it was too small, and I tossed it back into my potting mix, and it survived. And 2 weeks later, I found it as I was putting potting mix out for the outdoor containers, and decided to just stick it in the ground. So I have a pepper out now, which is about 2 months too early. So we'll see if that survives. That'll be really crazy. But the stuff that I'm planting out now mostly can handle a light frost. So really it's just a question of, I might have some things that I'm seeding now, like that will just go, you know, if I seed carrots now and then I have a hard freeze in 2 weeks, then I might have to start carrots again. But that's fine. You know, thousands of carrot seeds, it's not an issue. If I have a hard freeze, I'll lose some lettuce, but I start lettuce on rotation anyway. If I have a hard freeze, it's gonna like really set me back with the peas, because I did start a bunch of them and they're like growing up a trellis, and so if there's a hard freeze, I can't really cover them because of the trellis. But they're also fairly shielded, so it would have to be really, like, it would have to go way below freezing for my peas to not survive. Like last year we had a bunch of late frosts, and I did start a few peas really early, just as a gamble, and not all of them survived, but some of them did. And this year is actually a bit later and much warmer, but that means that they've grown a lot more. Like I have peas that are, you know, 30 centimeters plus tall. It rained and thunder, so I'm really depressed. Also, my rubber wellies are disintegrating. I have them for maybe 3 years tops. What? Also, my seeds, even with this seeding, what? Shelling peas, I have snow peas and sugar snaps. I've decided that I'm not bothering with shelling peas, because I can just have sugar snaps and they're better, and I can just have snow peas and they're better. So I do snow peas and sugar snaps. I love all peas. The thing is, actually, so peas are really tough to grow in my climate because they want a cool season. And we have cold and we have hot, and very, very little in between. So if you start them when you're recommended to start them, then it gets too hot and they start dying back just as they're starting to produce. If you start them too early, then you're likely to get a late frost and kill them back. So I've got a few hardy varieties and protected areas in my garden. I was going to try growing some of them in shade, but the tree that's shading them is going to get cut down, which is fine. It means I have more space for peppers. But it does mean that those peas, hopefully they'll yield early, because once it gets warm, they're gonna need that protection, and that tree's coming down. Yeah, the peas are they're like a very popular thing to grow here, but they don't do that well. I have exciting peas this year. I have some purple potted snaps, and yeah, all kinds of fun stuff. but I have a bunch of different types of peas. I started them all. I started a bunch of them early, and then I'm going to succession plant and see what survives. I also started. I have some brassicas out, and I'm not worried about the brassicas at all because I planted some of my brassicas out. Well, first of all, I started a bunch of perennial kales because I had this neat idea last year that I was going to try to perennialize some perennial kales. I'm in zone 5. Most of them are only rated to like zone 7. So I was concerned, like I've seen a lot of kales die over our winter before. So I thought that maybe some of them would survive, but we had a really mild winter with very good snow cover. So all of them survived. So first of all, I started this year's kales before the snow melted. When the snow melted, I realized that I still had all of the kale and collards from last year, like all the perennial types. So I have a lot. So then I decided to experiment because I had all of these early brassicas. So I put a bunch of stuff out. We had a warm week in March, but then it was going down to -7 the week after. And I put them out in the front of the bed without protection, and they all survived that. They were fairly large seedlings. So at this point, I'm not worried about kales at all. Like brassicas can just go out. Any kind of broccoli, kale, all of that, I'm not worried at all. I'm planting them out. If you had your llama and donkey farm in New Zealand, it'd be easier to grow peas. That's true, but I feel like your climate is not as good for things like blueberries. Like the wild blueberries that want a really nice cold season. And raspberries. Again, the best raspberries take a cold season. Strawberries, like there's a lot of things that want a real cold season. You abandoning us, Lee? Well, so Joy thinks I should move to New Zealand. And there are times when I'm tempted to agree. Telling Mom and Papa. I already told Mom. Joy, I want to believe you, but like the best raspberries I've ever had have like need like a really cold climate. Like even my climate's a little borderline. Also, maple syrup. What about my maple syrup? I approve as long as I get to visit. Okay. Well, I've been boasting to everyone about how nice life under new management is. So good. You're going to have to A, bring your own maple syrup so we can do import, and B, taste test our fruit yourself. That is very true. Maple syrup is sold everywhere, no excuses, you need to move now. I see. Everyone else has decided for me. Finished blueberries and raspberries taste awesome. Okay, Cyan, you're with me on this, right? Some fruit needs cold climates. Blueberries, like wild blueberries, the little flavorful blueberries, they don't grow in warmer climates. And raspberries, I mean, raspberries grow everywhere, but good raspberries need a hard frost. It's no doubt more expensive here. Yeah, so the largest theft in Canadian history was the Great Maple Syrup Heist, which is just like, it's a wonderful name and it's a wonderful story because it involves the, wait for it, the Canadian Maple Syrup Strategic Reserve. Because apparently other countries have strategic reserves of other things like weapons or tanks or oil. We have a strategic reserve of maple syrup. You can start a business selling maple syrup to New Zealand and Australia when they're, that's cool. If you ask me, good raspberries come from Lapland. Anyway, apparently some mob of maple syrup thieves started draining the strategic reserve tanks and replacing them with water. And it was only discovered because water has a different density than maple syrup. But they drained quite a lot. So that's kind of fun. Yeah. You can get maple syrup everywhere, but it is cheaper here. Not that it's cheap, but it is probably a lot cheaper than elsewhere. So a month ago on the live stream, Lee asked Joy to be her manager. Now we were discussing moving. I start to see a pattern. This is all like Joy's grand plan. But life under new management is amazing. So Joy is forgiven for whatever her ulterior motives may be. I recommend Cromwell. It's the fruit growing capital of New Zealand, and lots of ornamental deciduous trees will give you a taste of home. Y'all, who you really need to convince is not me. You do realize that the real issue here is Jordan, and he's the one you actually need to convince? My job I can do from anywhere. Also, I like warm weather. Jordan, on the other hand, he likes winter. Joy is trying to convince me to move to New Zealand. I said that I'm not the one who she needs to convince, you are. And then she asked what it would take to convince you. So go ahead, you're on.
An awful lot. I don't know. I'm gonna go eat mangoes.
No, coming out of that. But do you need to live somewhere where you can grow mangoes?
No.
No, that wouldn't help.
No.
Oh wait, sorry. I am staring at the ceiling. Here we go. No?
No.
Joy says that New Zealand has an awful lot to offer.
I'm sure it does. Doesn't have my family though.
Okay, so it turns out that you don't need to convince Jordan, you need to convince his entire family. I don't think that that New Zealand internet is like really substantially better than Canada's shitty internet. Love you, Lauren. Ci amo. Have a nice day at work. New Zealand internet is good and seems to be affordable compared to other countries. Oh, fascinating. Because you see, Canadian internet is shit and expensive. That makes sense. I don't know what our excuse is. Because it's not just that internet is bad in, like, you know, we're a huge country and there's a whole lot of areas of the country that aren't very populated. So you would kind of expect that the internet in some areas would be bad. But it's bad everywhere. Like, we have terrible internet even in places that are more populated. And it's expensive. this is coming along. See, like I painted like a square inch here. There's going to be some peppers here. Okay, let's see. I want some smaller carrot slices, like a little guy here. Yeah, I'm definitely having fun with these colors. It's really nice to have something so colorful to paint. What orange do you use? Well, in this case, it is Roman Schmal Aquarius Orange, I believe, or it might be Roman Schmal Transparent Pyrrole Orange. I actually can't tell the difference between the two. So it's whichever one I ended up putting in this palette. Let me just double check. I have them labeled. Okay, so this is Transparent Pyrrole Orange, actually. But it's a Roman Schmal version, which is a little bit more vibrant than some of the other transparent pyrrole oranges. And then I'm also mixing it with PY181 Golden Yellow by Roman Schmal. I wish I was looking at a bowl of actual waffles and maple syrup, though. Ooh, waffles and maple syrup. Do like me some waffles. Okay, I think I'm actually going to put a big, let's make sure that I'm not getting my hand wet. A big broccoli floret right here, so that this is done with broccoli, and then I'm gonna put some, yeah, that makes sense to me. That's interesting. Waffles. So one of the, if you look at the original Canada Food Guide image, there's a little triangle in one of the quadrants that's like a piece of bread. But I could replace it with a waffle. Ooh, that sounds interesting. I like waffles. They don't have maple syrup on there. The other thing is, yeah, I think that they were trying to put only things that are grown in Canada in the original one, but the interesting thing is they included rice, which technically could grow in Canada, but there's like basically no rice growers. Like there is northern adapted rice that would be possible to grow in Canada. It's just not. So it's a little bit interesting that they chose to go with rice. What color peppers? I'm thinking red and yellow. Probably mostly red. There's just not going to be a whole lot of space. I'm going to have them sort of like fanning out this way, little slices. Millet. I just learned that millet is a general term and there are varieties of millet. So I'm going to do quinoa because quinoa is actually grown in Canada. There's actually a huge quinoa industry now. Lentils also grow really well here. So I'm painting this on that soft press paper from Fabriano. And so it does have a little bit more texture than the paper I'm usually used to. It's dragging my brush a little, which I'm not always a fan of. But I'm trying to give it a chance because it's actually pretty cool. I can do a little bit more of this wet and wet effect than I would usually feel comfortable with. Quinoa and lentils sounds great. Yeah, so lentils in the nuts category or not nuts, in the proteins category, and a few kinds of nuts because there's a whole bunch of nuts that grow here. So yeah. I love lentil soup. I think maybe I should try to sleep. Okay. They miss you, but yeah. Get sleep if you need sleep. I don't eat lentils a lot. I like lentils a lot. I do eat lentils a lot actually, but I could eat them even more. I do really like them. Oh yeah, okay, let's get this a little bit more. I need to stop fiddling with that part. Lentils are delicious. Yes, yes they are. Okay, I'm gonna look up some sliced peppers and see what sliced peppers actually look like so that I can paint them. Like lots of different beans also. Like chili. Okay, so if I do something like this, maybe. Okay, so first, let's try that one. We're gonna do some nice red. Yeah. It's sort of like the YOLO approach to botanical painting. Sort of playing a risky game here. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, and then let's see here. Yeah. All right, let's go. Come on, come on. Ooh, wow. All right.
I like Sloppy Joe's mix. I like that.
Hi, Mikey. How are you feeling? I know that you were a bit of a downturn. Hospital visit recently, I recall. Feeling better? then I'm gonna have to do something like this. So what are all your favorite foods, people? cauliflower. I use simple frozen veggie mixes. I'm super fussy about frozen veggies. Like, I know that nutritionally they're great, but I like fresh vegetables. I really struggle with a lot of frozen veggies. Now, I'll do frozen corn pretty frequently. I got some frozen okra, which I'm looking forward to trying. If I can toast it up. Frozen peas sometimes. But like broccoli and cauliflower and like spinach and things, they're delicious fresh, but I just can't handle them frozen. Proteas and edamame peas are usually good. Yes, that's definitely true. Yeah, so I've even heard that in many cases the frozen vegetables have like more nutritional value because they're picked and then immediately frozen versus like fresh vegetables, you know, they're irradiated, they're picked too early, so this is not like a nutritional preference at all, it's just me being a bit of a snob, I guess. I'm going to throw another one in here, and this one's just going to be the side, so it's going to be a little less tricky, I think. Just trying to, so the inside cut face of the pepper has all this texture, and I'm trying to get that right. But it's kind of a challenge. So I'm gonna do that. Yeah, okay. Let's use a bigger one. Gonna let that dry for a moment. Go back in and edit it. I think this needs to be another juicier wash too over on that side. So let's go and do that like this. Yep. Well, what am I doing? Being a spaz, putting bread on my broccoli. Let's not make bloody broccoli. This is when you know I'm getting tired. I'm just like, brush around. Looking so good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm having fun with it. It's really nice to be able to do something from time to time that's not a big work project. It's not a commission or anything. It's just for fun. It always amazes me how little time you need to paint some really, really good looking stuff. That's interesting that that's what your takeaway is from the amount of time I spent painting a few carrots. Should be working in Gabor's sketchbook. Ooh. I'm looking forward to seeing these sketchbooks going around. It's really exciting. I'm swatching some Inktense pans. Well, that is a worthwhile endeavor as well. All right, I need to stretch and refill my drink before I ruin something. So I'm just gonna take a very short stretching break so that I don't ruin my own paintings. Sorry. Also, I need to stop sharpening my pencils, which is not a normal thing to do. Why is sharpening pencils not a normal thing to do? Actually, I went downstairs just in time to catch an Amazon package, which is, I don't like sharpening pencils either. I mean, these need sharpening, but less. Is I sketch with a 0.3 pencil, but then I find using just regular sharpening pencils, little, I don't know. I got myself some drafting pencils. Because I can never get them to look like they are new. Oh. Well, the point isn't to make them look like they're new. It's to have fresh lead to use. That's pointy. No? Anyway, so I have some new drafting pencils that I've got. Hate the bite marks leave on the barrel. This is why you need drafting pencils. I need my melon and lighthouse perfect. Stop putting pressure on them. I'm not sure I understand these things, but you know what? I find that I get tired of like lead breaking and having to find whatever. I find pencils frustrating. And so when I finished engineering school, I got rid of a whole bunch of drafting pencils. They weren't great or anything, but I still feel a little stupid. Anyway, I got some new ones so that I can have, because I mostly, if I use a pencil at all, I have these little skinny mechanical pencils. This is a 0.3 lead, which I use for, like, you've seen me draw in a couple of lines here. So I use those, but then for larger lines, or I think I might grab a non-photo blue lead as well. I find like wood casings on pencils a little frustrating and sharpeners a little bulky. So these ones, you can find some that even have sharpeners in the lid, although this one doesn't. Yeah. Yeah, so most of them are available. Drafting pencils are all different prices, but yes, I mean, I guess if you're gonna use like 10 different grades of lead, then that gets a little pricey versus a $2 pencil, right? I'm still longing for that Rotring 800 2mm pencil. If you want a long fur pencil, okay, I bought a $50 Canadian, $50. Let's be clear about that. I bought a $50 Canadian pencil from Wonder Pens, and then I've since found it for $30. Again, Canadian, not American. It is cheaper, but still kind of a ridiculous price. but it's so good that I've bought a second one of them so that I can have one in my travel kit because they're just that good. It's this Pentel Orance Narrow. So it's even cooler than the Pentel Orance because the Pentel Orance has this with retractable sleeve. So you push once, and then as long as until your sleeve goes all the way back, you don't have to advance the lead. So that's available in a 0.2. And I have that one in a 0.2. Now the thing is, I actually quite like the 0.3, and then I got this one in a 0.3. This one is really neat because it's got a spring mechanism. You don't have to advance the lead at all. There's no clicking the lead. I've never had lead break on this, and it's a 0.3, and I have H lead in there. So if you want them to spend money on unnecessary things, this is my recommendation of things to spend. I have the Uni Kurotoga. It is also so cool. Yeah. Like, to be honest, I mean, I have other 0.3 pencils, and in general, I love my 0.3 pencils, but like, this is a Graph Gear 500. I like it, but I like this one better. I could just have this pencil. That would be great, but it's only available in 0.3. It might also be available in 0.2, although I haven't seen it in 0.2. And then I decided to get a couple of drafting pencils for my like thicker, softer leads. Which one is that? Pentel? Yeah, so I guess both of these are Pentel. This is a Graph Gear 500, which I got because I liked the knurled grip. Also because I think I found it really cheap. This is a Pentel Orance Narrow. Nero, like as in black. So the Pentel Orance line, not all of them have this auto advance feature. This is the only one that does, which is why it's more expensive. What other pencils do I have right in front of me? Not that many. But yes, the truth is, I mean, I've bought a few nice pencils, but it's not the sort of thing that you need that many of, right? So if I'm just going to use one pencil for years and years and years, who cares that it's $30? At least that's my justification for spending stupid money. I also spend stupid money on brushes, which likewise. So yes, that's the one. Paolo, yes. Nero like N-E-R-O. Graph gears are my faves though. I like the 0.7 millimeters. Yeah. So this is a 0.3. And yes, it's a brown barrel. I think I got the brown barrel, to be honest, because it was cheap on Amazon. Sometimes, you know how sometimes Amazon pricing does this weird thing where things are like mysteriously super cheap for like a split second? I also got the, here, I'll bring that out. I'm taking a short breather from this just so that I don't ruin anything. But I also got the Jean Haynes Master Artist set of watercolors, and again, I didn't get this because because I need another set because of anything. It was on my watch list on Amazon, and it went down to $60 Canadian, which is like 40 US dollars. Which is really, really cheap given what these things usually cost in Canada. And again, with free Amazon shipping and whatever. So just on the basis of like how many of these colors I actually use in my regular usage, it seemed like a good deal. It's kind of neat to have this set. There are some colors that I don't really use usually, although, you know, these are only 5 milliliters, so I'll try out the set and whatever, and experiment with some of her techniques, put the extras in a fugitive palette. Paints! I wish I had as many lifetimes as mechanical pencils. They all last forever and I want them all. You know what? I think I've actually been pretty constrained about my like pencils and pens collecting. I have some. I like them. I use them daily. DS should start selling these sets in 15 ml tubes. Yeah, really. Like there's some neat stuff in here like Cascade Green and Lunar Blue, which aren't really things that I use super frequently. But, you know, it's fine. But like in terms of these colors, Nicolazzo Yellow, I go through. Green Apatite Genuine, I use super frequently. Aussie Red Gold doesn't go in my regular palettes because I have some color fastness concerns about it, but I really like the color. So for sketchbooks and stuff, I've got it in a few palettes. Opera Pink doesn't scan well, and it's not very light fast, but I've been having fun with some not light fast stuff just to play with. Likewise with Moonglow. Quinacridone Magenta I use all the time. Undersea Green is actually just really cool in a similar way to Green Apatite Genuine. Like I would just use this in one of my palettes instead of the Green Apatite Genuine. Imperial Purple I have a very specific use for coming up. That's just going to empty this tube. And Lunar Blue likewise. I follow Smoothie77 and his collection is really impressive. I'm nowhere near that deep in this rabbit hole. I feel like there's some rabbit holes that like my wallet thanks me for not being that deep into. Seems like trendy paint selection. It's like an interesting, vibrant, you know what? I mentioned that I have a specific use for the Imperial Purple, so I'm happy to talk about that. I'm gonna do a YouTube video in the next maybe month or so, where I'm making a palette that instead of being based on the watercolors that I like to mix with, it's based on my wardrobe. And it's not like a fashion thing. Like I'm not a fashionista. Like look, oh my goodness, look at the stupid dirt under my fingernails. There are colors that I'm attracted to for mixing. They tend to be a little bit brighter than the colors that I actually like interacting with more personally. So I thought it would be interesting to actually look at the colors that I surround myself with from the point of view of like what clothing I wear, what decor I put in my house, you know, that selection of colors. And see what that looks like if I translate it into paint. which means no nickel lasso yellow, because I don't have yellow clothing. I don't, like, I like nickel lasso yellow for paint. I don't, that's not a color that I use. Alas. So, yeah, this is interesting because a lot of these are sort of in that realm. And this is like a personalized selection, but it's someone else's personalized selection. So I'd been looking at it for a while, but usually it was like double the price of what I ended up getting it for. At least, sometimes more. So, so I wasn't gonna buy it for that. But for the price I got it, and just calculating that, like, well, I'm gonna use the nickel lasso yellow, I'm gonna use the green apatite, the Aussie red gold, the quinacridone magenta, the imperial purple, and then, you know, while I'm at it, I'll use some of the others. Seemed worthwhile. But yeah, it does mean that I will be on camera with my face and my ridiculous wardrobe, like all my crazy jumpsuits and vintage sweaters and stuff. And that's the only reason I haven't made this video yet, is that there's some extra effort involved in filming it. Okay, work. Back to work. Fashion, yeah. Yeah, fashion. Feels a little ridiculous, to be honest. Like, why am I doing a fashion video? But I think it'll be fun. Will it be wearing stuff or painting fashion? Well, I will be showing some of my wardrobe. Like, here's what my closet actually looks like, the sort of muted rainbow I've made in there. And then here's what I actually look like day to day. Here's the ridiculous clothing I wear. And then making a palette based on that. Then I thought that I might follow it up with having a small sketchbook that I only use that palette in, and painting a bunch of things like from around my neighborhood and stuff using that palette. And in that I might, you know, yeah, paint some of my favorite thrifted items or something, I don't know. I like the muted rainbow. Yeah, it's like, it's really pretty. So it's like a very sort of earthy sort of rainbow. Yeah. Sounds beautiful. I'm in. I want to watch that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a really fun video or series of videos, but and it's also just a way, to be honest, to use, there's some paints that I just don't use very much because I really like the colors, but I don't you know, because I can mix the colors from other paints in my palettes, they don't get used as much, or they don't even get put in palettes, so it's kind of nice to be able to just put all of that stuff in a palette. Stuff like Aussie Red Gold or like the Imperial Purple in this set. So there'll be like a lot of mixed pigments and things that are a little bit more textured, a little bit more granulating, where I'll be color matching to some of the colors that I tend to reach for more in life. Yeah. So that should be fun. Oh boy. What have we here? Lana, I'm also really liking your like mask litter video idea. All right. So next up, let's do a little bit more of this. Let's put a medium one here. And then I need to put another in here. figure out how to fit all my
Alright, let's get some of these shadows in. I also got some colored inks recently. One of them is for a specific project, like a commission that I'm being paid for was the original reason why I put in that order, but then I got a few others that don't have anything nothing to do with that commission. So my no buy has gone a little sideways, but
you want to reach things through the screen and eat one of the peppers. Oh, good. Maybe you need a CFO to handle your art supply purchases. You know what I need? I need more of an income. That's what I really need. My husband's went on about wanting kids and also wanting to quit his job so that he can be a primary parent. And let me tell you, our finances would really struggle under the circumstances. Hiring a manager was the right choice. You know, Joy has more than paid for herself in increased productivity and being able to, you know, generate and keep up with more business. But I think I'm a ways away from being able to hire a whole, you know, this is still a one-person startup and not a very successful one. More money equals more art supplies equals bigger house, need more money. Yeah. Yeah, really. Yeah, because you know the career that just pays for the supplies for the career is really not a not a sustainable business model. interesting. Aha! Woo! And we're back. Maybe. Are we back? Hello? Aha! Okay. To be honest, I think I'm probably reaching the end of what I'm really able to do in one sitting anyway. But I don't, yeah. Let me just take a moment to get a few more peppers in here. It's growing. And yeah, then maybe we have a strawberry here. No, not a strawberry, a blueberry here. Oh, let's see about blueberries, Alex, long time no see. You just missed my stream dying for the second time. Yes, I love blueberries, but particularly the little Canadian ones, the little wild blueberries. The regular southern high bush blueberries are not as good. But let's see. Blueberries. Ooh, are we painting foodstuffs? So I'm painting the Canada Food Guide, which is an image that you can easily go find online. And the goal with this is I'm going to use this image for some postcards to send to art directors. And I just want to use some of this cobalt deliciousness here. Come on, let's get some cobalt deliciousness here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And some of this good stuff. Get some of this in here. And then let's get some darker blue around these edges, and then we'll
add some darker stuff in a moment.
After this dries. Just remembered I hadn't hopped on Patreon either. We are behind the ball, definitely. Well, there's a link to Patreon in the video description, so you can just head on over to the video description and click the link on Patreon. And if you sign up for the PR 122 tier or over, you will get my monthly Patreon stream where I'm doing like a more structured workshop format once a month. Or click the link in the chat. That is wonderful. Yes, that's another option. Thanks, Lana. And don't forget to vote on the topic of the stream. Yes, all very important things. Good, we have good mods. We have excellent mods. And visit Discord. Yes! You are all excellent mods. Oh, a lot of you. Let's see about some more blueberries. Let's do another blueberry, say here. That would be cool. I'm gonna do wild blueberries. So this will be the absolute largest blueberry I do. I'm gonna put another blueberry right here, but it'll be tiny. And you can have access to a Patreon exclusive chat room on Discord. Yes. All wonderful perks. And I'm about to put out a Patreon exclusive little blog post thing that's got some behind the scenes stuff. There's a lot of things actually that I do in life that are sort of related to my work, but that I don't quite fit in with any of my other social media. Like when I read books that are botanical related, or gardening, or like fun art experiments, stuff that doesn't really help me advertise my main business through my other social media channels. A lot of that stuff often ends up homeless. So you can get to know me a little bit better and what I do when I'm not doing the work that I can share here by supporting me on Patreon at any tier, and every little bit is appreciated. But also, if you have a little bit more money, you can support me at a higher tier, and then there are some really awesome perks. All right, that's it for plugging my Patreon. All right, how are we doing? Okay, yeah, so the next thing I'm doing then is these little blueberries. And so what I am going to do these with is I'm just gonna come in and I am painting them with some slightly muted down cobalt sea blue, which is this bright teal. But very, very lightly so that I'll have lots of room to adjust it down later. And then around the edges, I'm again putting down some very muted down with just palette mud. Bring this up so you can see what I'm up to. Oh, you have more levels in Patreon. I have so many levels in Patreon. I have 7 levels in Patreon. So whatever your budget is, there's something there for you. Haven't checked it. Aha, yes. Yes. And then I'm going to mix a very, very dark color by mixing a mix of this Prussian blue, which, yes, isn't the most permanent thing in the world, but I don't care, because this is... yeah. And then some of my Paralines, and I'm going to start adding in some details here. So first I'm going to draw this little stem end, and maybe add some more of this lovely cobalt stuff. And then I'm gonna add some more of the lovely cobalt stuff in sort of rough areas like this. And I'm gonna let it be for a moment. Has the worst conditions than the previous one? The highest level, the 250 Canadian, the Tyrian purple. The Tyrian purple is one of these flex things. So like if you want a really expensive custom art piece that you want to pay in installments or etc. I haven't really set what that looks like, because I feel like that's a sort of case-by-case basis. Like, people who are giving me that much money, either they just really, really want to give me money and they're very rich, which is awesome. I'm not sure that I actually know people like that, but if I do, then cool. But then also, like, it might be someone who wants a $3,000 art piece, right? And they just want to pay over the course of a year. In which case, that's awesome too. Oh, I hope you get a lot of those. Yeah, I mean, that would be cool. But I just, like, I figured I'd put it there. I think realistically, you know, I do know I do know some people who are interested in doing a workshop, like a class twice a month. That is a thing that I have done for people several times. As far as like these giant commissions, yes, I have had a couple of giant commissions. They don't generally come about that way, but they could. So either that's someone who wants a giant commission but wants to pay it in installments, or it's someone who just really just wants to support me and has that kind of a budget. And I'm not putting too many conditions on there because, you know, when that comes up, it comes up.
can't go now. Okay, bye-bye.
Take care.
And then I'm actually just gonna go in with some graphite and
Deepen those up, but
maybe a little bit more of this cobalt sea blue and just glaze over just a tad over in this quadrant.
all right, so there's one blueberry. These are gonna take forever. I'm glad I'm only putting in a few blueberries. I'm also doing some other fruits. So luckily the blueberries, well, I don't have too many of them because, yeah. Quickly realizing blueberries are going to be kind of a real pain to paint these little things in each one of them. We got lots of blueberries off our blueberry shrubbery this year. But Joy, did you get low bush northern wild blueberries? I don't think so. I don't think so because they're like, even my climate is a little warm for them. They just really love that northern Canadian climate. And they are so much better than regular blueberries. When you come over, Joy, you're gonna have to try these blueberries because they are so good. They're so good. If it's run by Amtrak, then it takes an eternity. Oh boy. Gabor, you're not realizing I'm from Canada. People take Amtrak because it's faster than Via Rail. 13,788 kilometers between Oakland and Kitchener. So at one point I took the cross-country train from Toronto to Vancouver. And in fact, actually, I took it from Kitchener to Vancouver. Just, you know, just point of fact. No, never mind. I did Toronto to Kitchener to Toronto and back to Vancouver. Yeah, that's the road I took. And that's about 4,000 kilometers. It was a fun trip. I went there and back. Japanese made. Ooh, nice. As long as it's not, what's the Canadian company? What's it called? Bombardier. As long as it's not Bombardier, we're good. Maglev could do roughly 500 kilometers an hour. That's still longer than a day. Yeah, whatever. I've been on multi-day train rides. They're fun. How long did it take, the train ride? Well, so the way there, we were only somewhat delayed. Like, we were only like an hour delayed. So that took 3.5 days. The way back took 5 days because we got stuck in the Rockies behind a train car derailment for 24 hours. And then, and then we were making up time, and then some dummy parked his pickup truck across the tracks in the middle of the prairies. So it took 5 days, and the last bit of it was actually a bus. So that kind of sucked. But if you get delayed by more than 24 hours on a via train, which is totally a thing because big country, you get the value of your ticket back. I had a rail pass, so I got the value of the rail pass back, and the next year I took a trip to the East Coast that was completely free, which was really nice. Bombardier Zafiro can do up to 400 kilometers an hour. No, Bombardier Zafiro can do 0 kilometers an hour because Bombardier never delivers their trains. I'm sorry, it's a lot of the Canadian municipalities have recently ordered light rail vehicles, and Bombardier got all of the contracts, and Bombardier has been over a year delayed in delivering all of them. It was ridiculous. They're like several years delayed on delivering the last of our LRTs. They're behind on Ottawa. They're behind on Toronto. Yeah. Can't wait for a train from Canada to Europe. I mean, I think probably the only likely, no, it's not even likely, but the only like plausible route would be up through like Alaska. We're building a high-speed rail between Canada and New Zealand. Yeah, we are, sure. Bombardier sucks. Bombardier does suck. Japanese made with all the comforts. As long as it's not Bombardier. Train to Canada from Europe would be so cool. No more flying, right? Yeah. Let's get on that. All right. And you can have your precious blueberries and feijoas. Joy, this is my greenhouse dream. I can have all the things. Well, except mangoes and coconuts. I can't have mangoes and coconuts. But I can have my precious blueberries. I can have cloudberries and lingonberries and all of the beautiful northern berries. And Canadian wild rice. And maple syrup, all locally grown on site. And also guavas and passion fruit and feijoas. Are you salty because I keep insisting that my blueberries are better than yours, Joy? Fun to see you on Discord. Actually, kiwis are a very cute bird. It's slang for New Zealander, but kiwi fruit is an acidic, tasty green fruit. Lauren has definitely had kiwi fruit. I think he's just confused about the slang. I think I am sort of reaching the end of my ability to paint today. So actually, I think I'm gonna wrap this up and go chat on Discord. So if anyone wants to keep chatting, I'm on Discord. The link is in the video description. It's very cute. You think that, I would prefer to stay married. That's really the, like, my husband is important to me. And he's not about to move. Bye. But I do really like my local blueberries. They're very good. But, you know, you could come here and you could try my local blueberries and be very impressed. Bye.